Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. We're going to be doing a stretch class today, so I'm going to grab my equipment and my block, and we're going to get ourselves going here. Today we're going to be working with a block, and we're going to be working lower back and hip. Here in 1 second. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a yoga stretch class, and it is for all levels. And you don't really need equipment. However, I utilized or made this class to work with a block. If you don't have one, it's not a deal breaker. It's not like you can't participate or do this. You could take a beach towel and fold it up pretty simple, because when you do use it, it's going to come together. What also works is like a small pillow from the couch, or one of those cute little ones that are on some female help. So we're going to begin in a seated position. And I also want to mention that for the stretch classes that I'm airing right now, I'm reading from a book that's from an author, a yoga teacher author. His name is Darren Main. He practices out of the Yoga Tree. I believe he's still there. I think he was one of the co-founders of that, or one of the founders of the Yoga Tree in San Francisco, and they have a bunch of studios there. And early in my yoga practice, like 16, 17 years ago, 15 years ago, I would go to San Francisco and learn yoga. There wasn't really, even in LA here, there wasn't really a lot to learn from way back when yoga wasn't cool and popular and doctors didn't know anything about it. And it's kind of interesting. So to go find those teachers like the Shiva Rays, the Sean Corns, there was, Skyped him in to talk specifically about this. He also has another book called Yoga and the Path of the Urban Mystic, which is a really good kind of the fundamentals of yoga philosophy, kind of understanding the yamas and the niyamas, and some of the stories. I believe he goes into even the Bhagavad Gita. And these are all the stories that kind of revolve around the history of yoga. And it, quite frankly, is one of the longest or the oldest texts that we do know. They have the oldest medical system in the world. It's 5,000 years old. And so they have their own kind of intricate medical system that they did based on people's energies. And so I find it fascinating, and I've been studying that. But it's, again, these are some of the influencers. So his spiritual journeys along the Yellow Brick Road. So we're going to be working lower back. Have your block nearby and come to a seated position like I am. Anywhere on the floor, on the mat, it's comfortable. It doesn't need to be lotus here. I couldn't do this when I first started doing yoga, so I ask that you find a seat that does work for you. And then when you're here, just find your spine growing taller. Draw your heart forward, because when you do that, the shoulders kind of stack back over your hips. So our chakra lines are pools of energy that coordinate together. We have 7 primary ones that we talk about, and they run from the base of our sacrum to the crown of our head. And if you were to see them, they were like balls, circles, and these energy would come in and circle around and disperse back out. Each of these have a different color, a different quality, and they line up with different physical attributes of our body. So as we're sitting here, we want to line those up to see if we can get the energy and the flow moving through us in a way that opens up constriction, that finds those blockages in our physical body. It starts to open them up. So as you're drawing your attention to the breath, slow it down as we can start to move that breath through those physical bodies, through the physical, chakras and all those energy pathways called the nadis, N-A-D-I. And those, again, we have about 150, 175,000 of those pathways. So as you're connecting now to your breath, just feel it moving. This is one of my favorite portions of the book. So 5, 6 counts in, 5 to 6 counts out. You're going to be here for another minute, maybe 2. This is the title of The Good Witch, Bad Witch. You can pick it up even if you haven't been with us for the others. And so, what the munchkins want to know is, are you a good witch or a bad witch? The symbolism is in the question, are you a good witch or a bad witch, is quite rich, and it embodies the crux of spiritual evolution. It represents the very question the spirit asks the soul every moment of every day. It is the same as asking us to choose the path we walk, or the master that we'll serve, and the voice to which we will listen. But before we can understand the differences between a good witch and a bad witch, I think it's important to understand what a witch is. I think when we strip away myth, legend, fear, misconception, we find something rather interesting about witchcraft. Witchcraft is a very old, very beautiful religion which centers itself around the cycles of nature and our interconnectedness with the earth. It is also a teacher that we are co-creators with the divine. And in this co-creation or spell casting, this is at the heart of Glenda's question. So in a sense, you'll take another 2 breaths. We are all witches because we are all creating with the divine all the time, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. We are continually casting spells and shaping the world with our thoughts, with our beliefs, and with our actions. So now take your hands from your knees, your heart, wherever you find them, and then place them to your heart. Draw the heart forward for just a moment as we meet together. I'm going to move simply to the side, so maybe you can see me a little bit better from where you're at, as we slide our hands down to the sides of our hips. Leave your left hand on the floor and take your right arm to the sky. If you mix these up, it won't matter. As the right arm reaches up, let's take a moment to pull the arm back. Like you want to reach to someone who's behind you in the backseat of the car, but you cannot move your body at all. Now turn your left shoulder in and your right shoulder back. Reach over your left shoulder as your left elbow bends, reaching as far as it makes sense, keeping the right hip, the right glute on the floor. Now, as you're reaching, lift through your right ribs, the arm that's reaching over you, up to the sky. If you just did that bar class, you'll be nice and warm in this same space. Now, don't collapse here with the energy because, right, that's gravity pulling us down. So we're using that floor to push away, to lift and open the heart. Yeah, and you can feel it. The body doesn't mean to do it. It just, that's where it's remembered. So lift and lift and lift and reach. Good. Now look up and let's take another, maybe 2 breaths here. Maybe close your eyes. When we co-create as a good witch, we heal the planet and we propel humanity along its evolutionary journey. And when we co-create as a bad witch, we conquer and we destroy. We deepen our own sleep and we encourage others to remain unconscious too. Now, to take your next inhale, reach the arm up like you're going to brush the sky, fingers through the clouds, and switch sides. Place this other hand onto the floor and bring your arm up, the arm that was on the floor, the left side. First, pull the arm straight back behind you like you need to reach back to someone in the back seat. Then spin the right shoulder forward, the left shoulder back, or the arm that's all back. Then begin the journey of reaching up through the ribs to the sky and over towards the right as you bend your right elbow. And feel free to even bring it all the way to the floor if you're that flexible. If not, you stay where you're at, pushing the ground. Most of us will fall somewhere in the middle as you reach through and press that left hip and glute back down. You'll be here for another 3 breaths here. So in a sense, we are all witches because we are all co-creating with the divine all the time. Whether we are consciously aware of it or not, we are continually casting spells and shaping the world. And the vast majority of the people do not realize their co-creative ability and thus hand their co-creative birthright over to others. All right, now let's slowly make our way back up to the center. And let me find, oh, I know exactly where I'm at. All right, so as you make your way back to the center, nice and smooth, bring your hands back to your heart. If you're in lotus like I am, I'm going to unhook my feet, bringing them out in front of me so the heels and toes are out. My heels and toes could pull closer to my body. Let's not do that today. Let's push them out in front like I want to lay down, but I want to line up my face and my feet. So when I come down forward, my face could. Maybe you're like, well, that ain't never going to happen in my life. Well, let's just say it could. Would it line up in the right space or is it way back behind you or way too out in front? So just see if you can find that space where it would line up with you if you lean forward. Then you're going to notice if your lower back is rounded, the back hands should come behind you and you should try to straighten the back. That's the primary. If the back is straight, then you start walking forward. That's where most of us kind of find where we want to grab. Some people are grabbing the shins, the outsides of the knees, all up to the ankle of the feet, all the way to the floor. If you're up by the feet, open your feet like you're opening a book to read. And eventually, as you draw the crown forward first, tuck the chin and bring the crown of your head down towards the arches of the feet where you'll hold. For my more flexible friends, eventually you're going to start up here and then you'll end up kind of here. You could be already there. Try scooping under the knee creases for you guys and then using that leverage to lift the heart to get it straight and then to come down. So this is an upper back bend. You're up in the upper portion of your back where those 2 big bones that are up here on our back muscle, our back, the scapula, they kind of rotate a little bit. What you want to think about is those muscles really spreading and rounding. And again, I talk about a lot about this because there's the rhomboids in there. and then they attach up the neck into the traps, right? And so all that stuff gets very, very tight in the shoulder. But we're going to release the back, upper back, in order to make our way down to the lower back hips, and then to release the low back finally. The low back and the hips are all going to be very intricately intertwined, as they are very much in communication with each other on a day-to-day basis. So they kind of let the hamstrings know where they're going to be. So World War II was an example of this. Hitler was clearly serving the bad witch. His self-serving, ego-driven behavior was a clear statement of his choice to use his co-creative power to darken the world. In fact, he served the Wicked Witch so well that he himself has become an archetype synonymous with hers. While Hitler was responsible for the deaths of countless people, he does not share that burden alone. You see, this gets interesting. He may have been the charismatic leader, hell-bent on serving the ego, but there were thousands of people who quickly denied their ruby slippers and exchanged them for a good economy and a false sense of nationalism. The Europeans who followed Hitler were not bad people any more than Americans who have done nothing to end persecution and bigotry in the United States. While most of us are not involved in sins of commission, there are a few of us who have not committed sins of commission. Hitler, Stalins, and David Dukes are bound to show up once in a while, but their ability to cause trouble is significantly reduced when the masses refuse to turn their heads in fear. To listen to the voice, you've got about 5 more breaths to give you a little bit. So if you're moving deeper, move deeper. If this is a bit painful, when we're moving into these longer holds, discomfort begins to increase, it mounts. And so what I ask you is ask yourself this question. Is this pain or is this discomfort? Very quickly, you're going to know the answer, and then you can adjust. Pain is not normal ever, not in yoga even, so it's a flag that something's amiss. Discomfort, however, is kind of the journey back into comfort and into balance and health. So as you sit into a pose, it gets uncomfortable because the body is trying desperately to realign it back to that space. All right, you just got a few more breaths here, so hang in there. To listen to the voice of the good witch is to use our co-creative powers with the divine for our growth and the evolution of our planet. It means much more than living a moral life, meaning to do no harm, though that's an important first step. The good witch blesses the world with her words, her thoughts, and her deeds. She seeks to return home, but she also realizes that the only way to do this is to walk consciously and honorably. Now hold on a second. Before you come out of this pose, I'd like you to think about moving out of it very, very slowly, because all poses, when you're holding them very long, should be moved very slowly. Any pose should be out slowly, but particularly if you've been in it for a long period of time, as the body needs to readjust. So we're going to come out of this slowly. And then as you come out and you roll up, we're going to take our just right leg and extend it out. So back yourself out and just extend this right leg out. Take the left foot that's in front and pull it in. Good. Then you're going to maybe readjust that you're sitting onto your tail or your sacrum, lining again those chakras out. Bring the arms up over the head. Try interlacing the fingers if possible. If not, just keep them up. Turn the entire torso to your right leg, getting both the shoulders and the hips framed. Now exhale, forward fold, and try to bring the fingers around the ball of the foot. If you need to bend the knee, you can bend the knee. If it's just ridiculous and you can't, don't do that. Bring your hands into the floor. Now, when I said bend the knee, it's because on this approach, which is often approached in hatha, not in vinyasa, is that the knee is bent. We go into the final position with the fingers, not the leg, and then we allow the leg to slowly move into position. In vinyasa, we might approach it differently, placing the hands onto the floor with a straight leg, and then slowly bringing the hands until one day they're at the feet. This one, I'm here at the foot, and then just slowly with my breath, perhaps that leg will straighten out. Once again, if it's too much, hands onto the shin, onto the ankle, or onto the floor. You can use a strap, a belt, or the belt from your robe as well. All right, you're here for about 8 or so breaths, not forever, but long enough to get into there and find yourself dropping towards it. And as you do so, we'll try to bring that left shoulder down more. Yeah, and then bring that right one kind of back and away from you a little bit. So she treats the small stuff with the same reverence and attention as she does the big stuff. And while her commitment is unshakable, her ability to smile at herself and be flexible is undeniable. She is both strong and gentle,
civil and wild, creative and receptive. She always offers it with nurturance and kindness. On an emotional level, the good witch feels pain just as pleasure, but she is driven by neither. Whether she is sitting in a house of tears or a house of laughter, she knows joy because both houses are built on foundations of faith, perseverance, and a deep connection with the divine. The path of the good witch is not always easy, but it's inspired, guided, and full of purpose. Now, as you slowly make your way back up, walk your hands back up your leg, and so you can get your hands behind your hip and the leg that you didn't stretch in. Then bring the arms back up over your head. Interlace opposite from the world, and she draws strength from her inner wisdom. But she views the world with the newness and the purity of a child's eye. And she lives as a maiden and a knight, a mother and a father, an old sage and a medicine. It's weird because when I get her fear and uses her co-creative powers consciously or unconsciously to gain pleasure and to avoid pain. She forms relationships, but only when they serve her. And when possible, she is present and loving. Make no mistake about it, her love is very conditional. And will be turned to rage if you challenge her pursuits to hate. She reacts based on her perceptions of the past, rather than acting from her inner wisdom in the present moment. And she misuses her co-creative power in order to form the future in the dark image of the past, thus making sure that history will indeed repeat itself. Take another 4 breaths here, friends. You're almost there. The bad witch cries out of her loneliness and laughs out of insecurity. And this laughter is most. It's tempting to think that an individual is all good witch or all bad witch. But the reality is that both are existing all the time. Here, we'll make our way up. Now, as you make your way up, and I'm just going to turn my body in the same position. So I'm going to make my way up with you, and we're going to lean back just like we did on the other side. So your hands will come back slowly as you walk back. Then the right leg will come back out. So both of the legs are out now. There's a couple different ways you can rotate your hip girdle. One, you can slide your hand under your butt and pull your butt out. It's weird and it works. So try it. The more butt, the more it works, weirdly. Yeah, just pull it right out. So your butt's there to protect those sits bones when you sit down. Otherwise, it would be bone against the floor, and that would not feel good. You wouldn't be able to sit for very long. So by pulling them out of the way, it rotates our hip girdle forward. And now you can actually rotate it forward yourself. So think about your whole hip girdle and trying to turn it down to the floor. So lift up your hips off the floor, but keep your heels down. And use my hands, lifting up my bottom. Turn your hips forward and then set them down. Do it again. Lift up, turn forward, lift up, turn forward. Do it a few times. They do this in the hot yoga sequence quite a bit because they're trying to get their whole hip and knee to turn down towards the floor with the ankle to bring the chest to the mat. In Vinyasa, those people like scream dead in their tracks when they see people do that because their toes and hips are pulled back when they're doing their forward fold. Oftentimes I've seen, there's no real rules in yoga because a lot of this is based on interpretation. And then you get people that will interpret it a certain way and then they command it as law. And that's simply not the case. If you know anything about yoga, it's not taught that way. If it is, you should probably reconsider who's teaching you. Their views may be limited is all. And it could be fine. Could be okay with where you're at. And as you're walking forward, you're noticing, can I get my chest closer to the mat? Or is this causing my back to round? And if my back is rounding, well, my hip girdle is going to turn back with me. And if you were to rotate forward without that hip girdle, you're going to tear something or injure yourself. It's not safe to do. The hips, the knees, and the ankles really need to go together as we turn them. Think about that as you're pushing your hands into the ground behind you and pushing the heart forward, or you're walking your hands out. So you may notice that it's easy to walk out. A lot of dancers can bring their chest right down to the floor with their toes right on up. In the hatha, they grab the toes and they pull the toes down with the ankle. You could go the Karen's off camera. The hands on the outside of the hip are also going to be very tight, and they don't tell you they're tight. They just pull the hamstring and the inner loin. So you don't really know that that's the cause. Could be the glute too, but we'll address that in a second. So we're not all good witch. We're not all bad witch, right? The reality is they both exist in our unconscious. They live as a constant tug of war, fighting to see which one will rule their lives. So with every decision made, there is metaphorically a little devil sitting on one shoulder. All right, we're also going to take a couple more breaths here. That's it. So just think about where you're at. I'm getting my little notes because I just like to not forget stuff because I like to do that when I'm not paying attention.
Okay, I'm gonna turn just so you're facing the mat like you guys may be here. Now cross the ankles, place the hands onto the mat for tabletop. Just bringing your hands down onto the mat. I forgot what I was doing. I looked and then I forgot. Like it literally was 5 seconds later. I'm like, what was I doing again? Okay, oh, tabletop, all right. So this part you may, it's because my book is not staying. Okay, so this part, we're gonna open up our knees wide, and then of course I'm gonna turn back to face you because this will be more helpful. See, it's finding to look at my hands better. All right, open up your knees out wide. If you notice my feet are together behind me, this is called prone frog. So this is a big hippo. Look at the dog, you know, and he's sounding, you know, like, wow, he's so flexible. So you have some better, you know, newfound love for the dog in this position here. All right, so if this is really killing, their heart can come down. I'm just got the microphone on here, so I'm back all the way down. And then you can either stack your hands and place the top, your forehead on top fist, or you can place your hands one on top of each other and flat, place your forehead on there. But we're just finding a neutral neck and then just finding our way back into our breathing. This is a pretty deep hip opener, as you can see. So take your time as you get comfortable, and then we're gonna take another 10 to 15 breaths here. So we're here for a little bit. Just hang in there. It's gonna be about 2 to 3 minutes. It's not gonna be forever. So when you choose to listen to the whisper of a tiny angel, you're living as a good witch. But when you choose to listen to that screeching of the little devil, you're living as a bad witch. So with this awareness, there's only one question. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? Won't you go with me, pleaded the little girl, who had begun to look upon the little old woman as her only friend. No, I can't do that, she replied, but I will give you my kiss. And no one will dare injure a person who has been kissed by the good witch of blue. She came close to Dorothy and kissed her gently on the forehead. Where her lips touched the girl, they left a round shining. To be kissed by the good witch is one of the great gifts of the spirit. It is a covenant made between the soul and the creator. It is the guarantee that we will find our way home. It is the commitment on the part of the spirit that promises to always meet us where we are and guide us in whatever way we are best able to accept. The degree to which we are able to accept this gift is the degree that we will be able to experience serenity. All right, you might notice the hips are kind of getting a little closer to the mat even, so just stay with it. I'm going to get you out of here slowly, no quick movement. Okay, so to be kissed by the good witch, various spiritual traditions have rituals, so I'm going to skip that. I read that already. Various remind us of the kiss. And while they are a nice sentiment, they are nothing more than that. For Glinda's kiss rests on all of us. For somewhere deep inside, there is a part of each individual that is wise and all-knowing, in complete attunement with the rest of the universe. This kiss lets it be known that it no longer matters how many drugs a person takes, how many sexual partners they've had, or how many times they've cheated, lied, or stolen. Mad or fast. The kiss of the good witch, the mark of the spirit, is universal and unconditional. It is our birthright, and like the inheritance of the prodigal son, it is waiting for us anytime we choose to accept it. Okay, let's take our last breath or so. If you're crying, just wipe your tears off now. If you're like, I think I have to call to the other room to have someone help me, you don't. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it. Let's do this first. Let's trust on our elbows, our forearms, our head. If your elbows are down, and walk your hands back. Now, hold on. Bring those knees in. Ooh, now, as soon as you get your knees under your hips, you're okay. Because once they stack, that pressure's out of the hips. You're not in that anymore. Now, walk the knees forward. We're going to use our block for this next part. So if you have it, if you don't have it, it'll still work. Roll to your back. As you roll to your back, place the feet onto the floor right under your knees. Open your feet to the distance of your own body, of your hips, I should say, not your body, because your body could be a little bit bigger than your hips, and that's not what we're talking about. So as you bring your hands outside your hips, they should brush the feet. The heels should be down, so that's more important. My block, again, is nearby. Lift your hips up to the sky. Try walking your shoulders down a little bit, if that makes sense. And then try to walk your heels in towards your hands, maybe. Then once you're in bridge, your hips are as high as you can get them. Our goal is to try to get the knees to remove from your side, so you're not able to see the knees. Just kind of a bubbling ball in the belly. Now from here, we're going to bring the big toe mounds down, grab the floor. Now take the block and place it in between the thighs, tall
and why. This is really weird. All right, now as you're squeezing the block, you're moving now energy into adduction muscles. The glutes are probably on fire a little bit. They're just really, that's it. Nice and easy. 3, 2. Now on the last one, hold your lift. We're gonna only be here for about 6 or 7 breaths. It's not gonna be forever. So get into position, hold.
I'll reach you a tiny bit to get your mind off of it. This is really helping me. What really follows is, why do good deeds at all? Why not do whatever the hell we want? Stepping on whomever we need to. Simple answer. Just because we have a guarantee of success doesn't mean the yellow brick road is not going to be long and hard. It also doesn't mean instant success or that of some form of outside punishment. The fear of external damnation or the belief that one will return in the next lifetime as an outhouse maggot are very poor reasons to abstain from doing anything. And as the nightly news will attest, their effectiveness is also quite questionable. All right, friends, now
Take the block out. You're gonna reach up, grab the block, lower your hips. Just set the hips down to the floor. Open and close your knees a couple times, like a butterfly. Get ready to take off. All right, now walk the feet back. Make sure you get to out in front of you. Place the block underneath the right foot. Once the block's underneath the right foot, it's nice and even. My left foot simply on the floor. My right hand feels the block. My left hand feels my heel. Now lift your hips back into bridge. Walk your shoulders in. Push it through all 4 corners of the right foot and lift that bridge higher. Down and up now for 5. Nice and smooth. Focus on your right foot. 5. 4, higher please. Focus on the right foot, all 4 corners. 3, all 4 corners, especially those big toes. 2, now hold your next one up. 1, lift your left leg to the sky, and then we're gonna do 1 more set, that's it, of 5. Lower your butt and your heel on the straight leg to the floor. Then all the way back up to the sky. 1, 4 more. All the way down, all the way up. 4, good, all the way down, all the way up. 3, all the way down, all the way up. 2, all the way down, and all the way up. 1. Set the left foot onto the floor. Place the right foot onto the left foot, and then turn your big toe up towards you. And as you drop the baby toe down, figure 4. Push your hips up to the sky. Use your baby toe of your right foot to hold onto the outer left knee. You're pressing up towards you. Push your right knee away. You can maybe grab the hamstring for this figure 4 glute stretch, or you're welcome to grab the shin bone and push that knee. You might be pushing your right knee away and then pulling that left shin in. The feet are relaxed here. Completely. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Set the foot onto the floor. Now place the right foot back onto the floor. Grab your block that's under the right foot. Tall, wide between the thighs. I'm gonna write a song. Yeah, that's a good song. All right, down and up. Now, if you're doing this, kind of focusing on now squeezing the glute and lifting all the way up. Notice where see that knee bone moves anymore. When bones tend to hip bone, hip bones. Remember that? We're gonna use that game. I want to play that one again. Remember Operation? You could touch the sky, the sides of it. It would go right. All those old games. They're bringing everything back, right? They've already. So now we should just get all those old games. They're actually quite fun. There's a cider house right next door that would, they just had all old games. And it was like the funnest time ever. They just, all this alcohol. I'm like, I'm following her to her quarantine. She goes, this is the second time I've been to the store. Just for this. She goes, there's nothing for us to do but drink. And I was like, that's not true. You could do bridge pose with us for like 10 hours. That's way better than drinking, right? Right, Karen? She's laughing again. She's literally trying to do that stuff. All right, she's an idiot. I already know this though, so it's fine. It's okay, they know me in there. We make this ridiculousness out of ourselves. We have no problem making fun of ourselves. All right, let's lower our hips to the floor. You did a fine, 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 fine job. So let's remove the ball, really focusing on this left side now, just this left side. And then as I'm doing that, what you're gonna notice is that your body has a tendency of rolling out on the foot because it's designed to actually walk and run that way. So shoes have not really helped you in the form of balance in your feet. Arch support has actually prevented us from having strong arches, as it turns out. It cause things like plantar fasciitis and fallen arches. And that could be just from walking in shoes for some people. All right, now as you're getting up there, you're getting up nice. Big ones, 5. All the way down and up. 4. All the way down, up. There's leverage to lift your hips in this bridge figure 4. Hold the left knee open and press your hips up. You'll feel it right around the outer glute, the piriformis, and the hip. Such a good stretch for the hip glute. Now lower the hip, stay in the figure 4, push the knee away. You can stay there or lift the knee up for a deeper stretch. It's your call. To go deeper, I'm gonna grab the hamstring. To go deeper, I'm gonna grab the shin bone. So any of those will work. My chin should be able to go to the chest though, my neck should be down. You don't need your feet in. 2. And 1. I'm gonna suck the foot onto the floor, release the other foot so they're both back down, right? And let's bring our knees up to our chest. Yeah, let's just circle them a little bit. Yeah, circle. I want them to release. I want them to feel comfortable. I don't want them to be like, now what's happening? I'm scared. This is the Mac Daddy one, and it's not hard at all, which is always what you want to hear at the end of the class, because usually they're like, this is going to be awful. And you're like, oh no, what are we going to do? Because they're like, don't worry, you don't get into it. And you're like, oh, I'm going to suck at this. So this one, no, it's the opposite. Everyone can do this one. It's easy, and it's super, super deep, and it's going to get you into your body. So just kind of, can you stay here for a second? So our lives, stay right around your backs. Our lives are this. We're rounded. And because of that, this is a new pattern that's in our body. I can't even get 5 breaths. I mean, it's a lot to be able to hold that energy up, find a deep breath. So we're going to do that pose, and you're not going to have to exert any energy at all. So take the block. You can also then we're on our bridge pose. So everybody, you're here on your knees. So take your feet to the floor, then lift up to your bridge pose. When you do that, I'm sliding the block under my tailbone. Now I want you to notice when I come down onto it. If I lift up, I can move it down by the butt more, up to the back more. Most of us are somewhere right in the middle where the hip bone is, on the flat part of the bone. Trouble is I don't know if you got in the right spot. So this is how you're going to tell. You set your hip bones down on the block, your arms to the side, and then you straighten your legs out one at a time. If it feels weird, which you've never done this before, it's going to feel weird. You may want to just go, well, I don't know if I got it right. Try moving it a little bit higher, just a hair, and then try it again. Is that better or worse? It's like at the eye doctor. Then you go, that's better. For me, it was a million times better. I just found the spot. But just in case you didn't, I might go a little higher. I might go a little lower. So do that as many times as you think you need until you get to the best case scenario for you. So I'm not saying you're like, hey, I got a new way I'm going to sleep at night now. No, we're not talking about that. But you certainly can be here for the purposes of the next 2 bits. Now, once the legs are straight now, I'm relaxed. You see this? So remember I showed you how I was when I was on my belly lifting? So now I'm in that same pose. I'm in a back bend. This is the coolest part. The hips are raised now higher than your heart. So the adrenal glands are kind of dismissed here. This allows, of course, procreation and creation. It also is creativity. It also is where stress can come from too. So I just showed you how I eat. And there's a lot of different chemical matter that has now been proven to be what they call endocrine disruptors. And what that means is the hypothyroidism for the gland in the throat, thyroid, parathyroid. We get immune issues like we're seeing now out in the world. People are simply not healthy and their immune systems are compromised. That's over the heart chakra. Releases T cells into the bloodstream that works hand in hand with the immune system. Continues on, goes through the body. We're down here by the hips now, we're our back, and we're treating it. So between the 2 hip bones, right, we have the ovaries for the women. Gentlemen have the testes. These are secreting needs. We have the adrenals. And those are releasing chemicals, hormones that are for stress. Cortisol, adrenaline, this other things in there. So that kind of is not working properly for whatever reason. So this allows them to turn off here and replenish. Maybe normally wouldn't. And like the book suggests, I mean, we're not a-holes. We don't necessarily mean to be, mean to others and mean to ourselves. It's not our nature, really. It more is a side effect of what's happening in the deeper layer. We just aren't feeling balanced. We're feeling less than or not good, or maybe we're embarrassed by something that has happened to us or something we've done ourselves. And then these things start to build in there. It can cause your heart to shrink, and it causes calcification around it, which doesn't let the T cells come out. You've heard of people dying from broken hearts. It's kind of interesting because it kind of works right around where the immune system is. So now as you're finding your way into your last deep breath, I've talked you through most of this now. We're going to words. We have complete freedom to do whatever the hell we want. It's not a vengeful God that will keep us out of heaven, or a principle such as karma that will keep us from waking up. Oz is a dream for person, whether we experience Oz as a nightmare or a quiet dream of peace. Glinda's kiss leaves a mark on each of us that cannot be washed off or erased. It is there for us to embrace or to deny, to share with the world or to hide under a bushel basket. When we learn to see this mark in ourselves, we are magically able to see this mark in others. And when we deny the space and simply on the exhale, bend the knees, placing the feet onto the floor. One last little bit of yoga magic before Shavasana is the floating leg trip, legs up the wall. Leave your arms down, bring one knee up and straighten out. Now draw the other knee up and straighten. Now if your legs are A-shape, your feet can be together and independent. Do what's comfortable, but please come back to your eyes closed and back to your breath. If you can imagine a world where we see people as spiritual beings rather than as having glass breaking, laughter, smoke, and fire, scares us so deeply that Glinda's gentleness retreats into the background of our minds. The fear of the wicked witches colors our perception of us. And so it is no wonder we view so many people as the enemy. Each person we meet is seen not as the best defense, thus perpetuating fear. All right, let's take our last deep breath here. And then when you're ready to exit the pose, we're simply going to bend the knees and place them on the floor, put together one at a time, it doesn't matter. Then when the feet are down, push the feet into the floor. Lift the hips from the block and slide the block. So now the back has been released. As your legs come down to the mat, we'll simply straighten them out and then shaking them out. Bring your right knee back to center, bring your right hand back up, and then side. The left leg will come up, the right foot will extend, twist over to the right. Please keep the left shoulder down. This is not a deep pose per se, it's just a gentle realignment of those last energy pathways. And now as your chin is moving to the shoulder, continue to push through that left shoulder and reach. Just taking slow, deep breaths. For a big squeeze. You're forward to your knees for 3, squeeze harder please for 2, and as you exhale, final Shavasana brings us home. Dead body posture or corpse pose as your arms rest at your side, palms are faced to the sky. The toes are fallen out to the sides. You may also place your hands on the chakra lines, right hand between the center of the chest and left hand between the center of the hips, lining up the Anahata and Chakrasana. And allow yourself to move back into the tension of your breath. Feel the heaviness of the toes as they fall out. A nice deep breath in through your nose with your eyes closed. Exhale.
As we begin to recognize this mark, we see it in all our brothers and sisters. We begin to see it in nature and in art, and in music and in science. The kiss of the witch of the north is as omnipresent as spirit itself. And as this transcendence continues, the illusion of Oz transforms itself from a dream of terror to a dream of peace, creativity, and joy. When this happens, we can spend less time rearranging the furniture. Slowly, if you're on your back, simply just allow yourself to watch your breath. Wherever you are in any position, bring the fingers together and lightly just rub the pads of the fingers together as you heighten sensation of touch and bring an awareness to the physical body. As you're gently wiggling the toes, begin to wiggle your fingers. Begin to roll your wrist and roll your ankles. As you're rolling your wrist and your ankles, slowly bend your knees, bring side to side. Feel free to drop off to the side, make your way up to a comfortable seat, or simply rock and roll forward to back until you can lift into it. We end with chin down. As the heart moves forward, we recognize compassion. May we seek out opportunities of compassion. And as the thumbs rise and put between the eyebrows or forehead, lines of the concha, receiving more growth. As we take the last and final breath, reach towards the sky and ask, may we continue this inquiry and growth into our enlightened path. And as we exhale humbly to earth, may compassion show us the way. From my heart to yours, namaste. Do you have any requests on any body parts or any type of workouts or classes that you would like to see, or any particular chakra work that you'd like to see? Feel free to join in. Again, the book I was reading from was Spiritual Journeys Along the Yellow Brick Road. The author is Darren Main. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for your continued support of our students. Just want to mention. So anyway, I want to thank you guys all again for joining us, and keep it safe, have some fun, think outside the box, and more importantly, look maybe about what everybody else is doing, you know, and if they're complying or whatever, maybe work on seeing the silver lining today and see what we have thought, because the mind is everything. So what we think is what we become. All right. I love you. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you. I'll see you next time. Peace out. And I love you. Peace out, you guys. I got 3 of you. It's like all my children. Well, peace out. I love you. Good job, you guys.